going to share with you some specifics about your personal literacy reflection paper. This is a paper that everyone who takes this course is required to complete, and there are really two parts to it. Part one focuses on your own experiences with literacy as an elementary, middle, high school, and college student. And part two focuses on what you want to provide as far as experiences go for your own students in the classroom. Before we go any further, if you haven't downloaded the template for the literacy reflection or the personal literacy reflection paper, I'm thinking you might want to do that now so you can take some notes on it. You will be using this template for your own paper, so I want you to type on it, and then eventually when you're ready to turn it in, you'll turn in that template. The first part asks you to write about your own memories of school experiences with the language arts. The language arts include 6 areas: reading, writing, speaking, listening, viewing, and visually representing. A lot of people get confused between viewing and visually representing. If a student is viewing something, he or she is looking at a movie, a poster, a chart, something that they are actually looking at. Visually representing is when you ask that student to take some information they've learned and create a poster or create a movie or create a PowerPoint. They are representing the information that they have learned in a visual way so other people can view it. We're going to use several different formats for your memories. And so the first one, and you'll see this on the first page of the template, is a 6-word memoir. What you have to do is think about each of the 6 language arts and summarize a memory in 6 words. It has to be exactly 6 words. So for viewing, my memory was this: quizzes about movies I'd rather read. So you're going to do one of those for all 6 language arts. Then you're going to write a little bit longer memory. It could be about the same thing you wrote your 6-word memoir about, or it can be a different memory. I chose to do mine about the same thing. Tweeting is very popular right now, and so you're going to write a tweet. When you write a tweet, it can't be more than 140 characters long. And when you count the characters, every letter is a character, every space, every punctuation mark are characters. So here's my example. Always wanted an A. Teachers gave quizzes over movies. What was important? How should I know? Never did well. Today, don't like movies. So I really think that my experiences in having to take those quizzes over films that we watched in school have contributed to my not being terribly fond of movies today. So you're going to do a tweet for each of the 6 language arts. Then for the next part of this, you're going to pick 2 of the 6 language arts, and you're going to write an encyclopedia entry. An encyclopedia entry starts with the topic and then describes something about that topic. My example was cursive. We learned to write in cursive at the end of the 2nd grade. I remember feeling so proud of myself that I could now write like a grown-up. Then the day came when we were required to use cursive on our spelling tests. I hadn't missed a word all year on those tests, and I had lots of confidence that using cursive would not alter my perfect record. Then came the killer word, him. I knew how to spell it, not a problem, except for one thing. A cursive M has 3 humps, and I only used 2. My perfect record was broken, and I was devastated. I tried to argue my case, but the teacher prevailed. So once again, you don't do all 6 language arts, you just pick 2 of them and write 2 encyclopedia entries. Your encyclopedia entries should be about a paragraph. The next piece will probably be a little longer than anything that you've written so far. This is called Forgive My Guilt. You're going to see that there is a poem called Forgive My Guilt, Over the years, we do many things that later on we regret in our lives. So I want you to think of a personal experience related to literacy that you regret and write about it. It can be a poem if you want to, but it can be an essay as well. Notice that that piece is worth more points than the encyclopedia articles, tweets, and six-word memoirs. So I would expect more to go into your creation of it. And then the final part of this is a watermark event. Watermark events are events that have a lasting effect on us. They can have a positive effect, they can have a negative effect, but many years later, we still remember those. So think back over your own personal literacy history, and you might want to brainstorm some things that would be possibilities for your watermark event, but then pick one and write me several paragraphs about that watermark event, explain what happened and how it's left a mark on your life. Moving on now to the second part of the paper, I want you to think about what kind of an experience you want your students to have in your classroom. So the first question deals with our state language standards, Ohio's learning standards for English language arts. And how do your skills, preferences, and habits match the state and national standards? And we're just going to worry about the state standards at this point. How do you practice what the standards preach? When you're in the classroom, what do you think of these standards? How are they going to affect the teacher that you will become? I want you to spend some time really looking at the standards, pick a grade level, look at them carefully. Are there some you don't understand? Are there some you think are ridiculous? Are there some that you think are absolutely great that you wouldn't consider teaching without? I want you to write a response, and I'm saying probably close to a page. What part of these standards going to play in your own teaching? Which parts do you agree with or disagree with, and why? And I want you to be specific. You're not going to address every single standard, but when you look through those, if you see something you really don't think is appropriate, I want to know specifically what that is. The second question has to do with classroom environment. I see classroom environment as having two aspects. First of all, physically, how are you going to set up your classroom? Do you want tables or desks? Are you going to have centers in your room? Are you going to put posters on the wall? Are you going to have a word wall? How are you going to arrange your students? All kinds of things like that related to the physical environment. I want you to describe for me what you want in your classroom, how you want your classroom to look, so that it will promote a love of literacy. Then what type of classroom climate are you going to strive to attain? By climate, I mean kind of the atmosphere. When you walk into the room, what will you feel? Will you feel a sense of tension? Will you feel a sense of community? And not only what kind of climate you want, but what kinds of things will you do to create that climate? Once again, that should probably be at least a half a page, maybe a page. And finally, your passion for literacy can rub off on your students. It's important that you build a relationship with your students. And one way to do that is sharing some of your own experiences with them. So what experiences will you share related to literacy? What kinds of things will you want your students to know? How are you going to use those to build positive relationships? Which experiences will you share? What will you try to accomplish by sharing these experiences? And how and when are you going to share them? So once again, two parts to this. The rubric or the scoring guide that I will use is included in your syllabus. You'll notice how many points each of these is worth. And you know, the things that are worth more points, I expect more thought to go into. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me, and don't forget to use the template so that you'll all be uploading the same kind of, or the same format for the paper.